News alert right now. President Trump is in Germany for the G20. He's about to meet with German Chancellor Angela Merkel a day ahead of his high-stakes showdown with Russian President Vladimir Putin. This is the president slamming his predecessor for not doing enough about Russia's meddling in our election. This is Outnumbered. I'm Meghan McCain. Here today, co-host of After the Bell, Melissa Francis. Also from FBN, the host of The Intelligence Report, Trish Regan, Fox News legal analyst and host of Justice with Judge Janine Pirro. And today's hashtag One Lucky Guy, we welcome back TV's Superman and host of Masters of Illusion on the CW, Dean Cain. And Dean, you are outnumbered.
And I'm happy to be outnumbered. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much for coming back.
Great. I'll always come back to this couch. It's a happy place to be.
Do you get sick of people asking you where your cape is?
No.
No? Never?
No,
okay.
Although every time I get on an airplane, it is a little monotonous. Why are you on a plane? But I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. I'll embrace it forever.
That is cheating.
Exactly. We'll talk about this later, Judge.
Okay.
All right. Let's get started. President Trump in Poland earlier lashing out, blaming former President Obama for not doing enough about the Russian hacking. Watch.
Why did he do nothing about it? He was told it was Russia by the CIA, as I understand it. It was well reported. And he did nothing about it. They say he choked. Well, I don't think he choked. I think what happened is he thought Hillary Clinton was going to win the election, and he said, let's not do anything about it.
Kristen Fisher joins us live from Warsaw, Poland. Kristen.
Hey, ladies. Well, about 15,000 people were cheering President Trump on in that speech earlier today, and he gave them a lot of love right back. He said he praised Poland for sending their own troops to fight alongside U.S. troops in both Iraq and Afghanistan. He also praised Poland for being one of the few countries to keep its commitment to spend 2% of its GDP on defense. So those are the good things. But now President Trump is heading into some far less friendly territory. He's about to hold that big meeting with German Chancellor Angela Merkel, the host of the G20 summit. And who can forget that awkward handshake in the Oval Office? Then there was Chancellor Merkel's bold declaration that Germany can no longer rely on the U.S. The two clearly differ on several key issues: immigration, Germany's trade surplus with the U.S., and the U.S. pulling out of the Paris Climate Accord. But in the speech that President Trump just delivered here in Poland, he said something that Chancellor Merkel is going to like, something that he noticeably left out from his speech at the NATO summit about a month ago. And here it is.
To those who would criticize our tough stance, I would point out that the United States has demonstrated, not merely with words, but with its actions, that we stand firmly behind Article 5, the mutual defense commitment.
Now, that is exactly what our NATO allies want to hear, but it's the exact opposite of what Russia wants. And one day before his first face-to-face meeting with President Putin, President Trump said this about Russian meddling in the U.S. election.
I think it was Russia, and I think it could have been other people in other countries. Could have been a lot of people interfered. I said it very simply. I think it could very well have been Russia, but I think it could well have been other countries, and I won't be specific.
Now, we still don't know if President Trump will even bring up Russian meddling in the U.S. election when he sits down with President Putin tomorrow. The only thing that we know for sure that he will talk about is Syria. It's an area that the White House is really hoping to find at least some common ground on. Now, I believe that President Trump has just arrived at his hotel in Germany. And in case you're wondering, ladies, why I am sitting in this lovely empty ballroom, it's because this is or was the press filing center here in Poland. Most of the press, in fact, all of the press has already left. They're on a charter plane to Germany. Our chief White House correspondent, John Roberts, is on board, so I'm providing some backup here. But literally everybody has left, even Polish TV. It's kind of sad. Ladies, lucky guy, back to you.
All right. Thank you so much for that. I'm sure you'll be with friends soon. I want to tell everybody at home who's watching what you're seeing there on the side of the screen. And as Kristen said, that is the president right there in that car arriving at the Hotel Atlantic Kempinski in Hamburg, Germany. He is arriving for this one-on-one meeting, a restricted meeting with German Chancellor Angela Merkel. Then after that, they are going to have a broader meeting and include other people. But lots of folks are wondering what is going going to go on and what they're going to say to each other behind these closed doors here. Let me bring in the rest of the couch a little bit here. Megan, what do you think? What do you think about they've had a tense and testy relationship so far?
So I went to Vegas about a month ago, and when I was gambling at the blackjack table, I was sitting next to some Germans. And of course, I brought up Angela Merkel and her meeting with President Trump, and to say that they were not happy about it, not impressed. These specific people were very offended. She went on to say that we can no longer rely on the United States or Europe as a steady partner. To say that it was a cool and testy meeting is putting it mildly. I was very impressed with his speech this morning in Poland, but they're right. He's going into sort of uncharted territory right now, and it'll be very interesting to see if there's any way to sort of you know, come back and maybe possibly get our alignment back on track.
Well, he disagrees with the policies that she's taken. I mean, he disagrees with the open border approach that she's taken and what has happened to her country in response. Judge.
Well, they have some fundamental differences, and I'm sure.
By the way, they're just walking in right there on screen. I don't mean to interrupt you, but I want to point people to what we're looking at here. This is the arrival, and we just saw them walk through the door. Go ahead, Judge.
There are fundamental differences that the president is not going to change on. He made a statement just before he arrived in Germany that the U.S. has made some of the worst trade deals in history. So that's kind of putting a stake in the ground, saying, you know what, I'm not spinning off of that one, folks. She is, I'm sure, trying to embarrass him with respect to the Paris Climate Accord and our not being a part of it anymore. She's put it right at the top of her agenda. And then you've got immigration, where the president feels very strongly about limiting immigration, and she feels very differently. So I can't imagine that they're going to make nice with each other.
She's also the last global leader during a time of progressive liberals that sort of took the wave over globally that now has been replaced with populism, and she really is the last figure, and I think is standing strong on her politics, although it should be noted that she is up for re-election and it's not polling-wise going terribly well at the moment.
So she's clinging to that platform, right? But the problem is it's not working. It's absolutely not working in Germany. You think of, and I think it's tough for women especially, she's brought in over 1 million migrants from the Middle East, and they now are in a situation where, do you believe the swimming pools in Germany have to post posters that show that you, with an X, through a man grabbing a woman's
rear end.
Backside. Yes, thank you, Megan. And to me, that is so, you know,
beyond that, what Germans past that, Germany ran out of pepper spray because there were so many sexual assaults happening during the streets, which I think led to a warning to the rest of Europe and also the United States. So although they do have a testy meeting initially, I don't see either of these two figures hedging on their beliefs or policies.
Yeah, let me bring Dean in for a second here. I mean, so the last time they talked about the last time he gave a speech, and he didn't, you know, he was dismissive of NATO. He didn't affirm Article 5. He did this time. What's changed in between is that his reprimand seems to have worked. I mean, the nations that weren't opening their wallets did. What do you think?
Well, I think he's a good negotiator. I mean, that's the whole point. I think it's going to be a testy meeting, but I think it'll be sweeter than the last one they had. I was just recently in Germany, and I was speaking to a number of people there, and not in Vegas at the blackjack table, but I was in Munich and the surrounding areas, and I was speaking to some immigrants who came there legally a long time ago, and they were not very happy with the open borders policy at all. So
in what way? I mean, because they were immigrants themselves.
No,
right?
they came in legally through a whole situation where they wanted to come in and be part of Germany and embrace the culture and assimilate. And they felt like these people who were coming in now didn't want to work. This is from the people I spoke to, and they were very unhappy with those policies. And this guy was a very clear immigrant. I mean, there's no question.
You know, there are reports right now that there are 1 million African migrants en route to Europe, according to a UK envoy, and Italy is now calling for mass deportations. So, I mean, they are being overrun. There is no law and order. I mean, you have to actually put up a sign that you're not supposed to sexually, harass someone, assault,
right?
Or touch their bottom. Horrible. I mean, it's a mess over there. So Angela Merkel, she can stick to what she believes is appropriate. I think she's going to have a lot of trouble with the re-election.
I agree with you.
So we obviously want to move on to President Trump meeting with Vladimir Putin tomorrow. Everybody get their popcorn and Jack Daniels. I will be, doesn't matter what I'm doing, I'm going to be watching this.
That's quite a combination.
Today.
Is that what
my personal combination, preferably. But we have to talk about about the fact that today, in his speech in Poland, he was very hard talking about Syria, talking about the Ukraine, hitting Russia much harder than I think any of us expected. What do you think going forward with this meeting tomorrow, Dean?
Well, I think, first of all, everyone's going to look for optics. They're going to go, oh my gosh, are they going to be sitting together? How are they looking? Do they look cozy? All that ridiculousness. When the reality is they're going to be playing, high stakes poker. They're going to be trying to work things out. I don't think he's going to bring up the meddling in the election. Look, of course Russia was meddling in our election. They've been trying to do that for decades. We've done it plenty in other elections. There's no big shocker there. Obviously, the collusion thing has gone poof, as well it should have. But I think those guys are going to have a game of high stakes poker, and I think it's all right.
You've got Vladimir Putin. I mean, this guy is KGB. I mean, he knows how to assess someone. And what I was reading was that he actually brought a Labrador to meet with Angela Merkel because she's afraid of dogs.
I thought it was a reporter. I heard that story about a reporter, that he did it to a reporter.
Yeah, well,
you think it was Angela Merkel?
It's a real head
she doesn't look
game
like she's
with him.
afraid of dogs.
I don't discount that at all. I think he would do anything. Your dad said it well. He looked into his eyes and he saw KGB.
And Bush said he saw soul.
Yeah, I have to disagree with that. I'm on your dad's side on that one too. And I think that Trump's ready for him. I think it's going to be interesting.
But you would think there would be some opportunities here where we could work with Russia in terms of dealing with the threat that's coming from ISIS. I mean, we should want to work with them. They should want to work with us. I think the challenge is, on the one hand, you get that, but then you got NATO as an issue. You've got Syria as an issue. And to your point, I mean, he's a tough guy. Vladimir Putin is going to be a tough guy, but I think so is Donald Trump. It'll be an interesting meeting.
The problem with that idea, though, of working together against ISIS is that Russia's big concern and Putin's big interest is what happens in the area and who controls it in the vast oil reserves once ISIS is gone. And that's where everybody comes to loggerheads, because you have the second round of who controls in the vacuum. They obviously want to keep their air base and they want to keep their base in Syria. I don't know that they necessarily, need Assad there, but he's been their puppet and their stronghold. And I think the reason why, obviously, we've seen this conflict is what happens after you force ISIS out.
And that's one of the problems here. We haven't thought that through enough. In other words, if Assad goes, do you run into a situation just like we got into in Iraq, where once Saddam Hussein was out, we had no real plan in place.
Yeah, but
Assad
is not going to go anywhere.
That's
while
what I was
Putin
gonna
is
say.
aiding and abetting and bombing hospitals in Aleppo. And the idea that we are somehow going to find middle ground on that is a complete and total fantasy, but we have to move on. President Trump pledging to act on North Korea, warning the country could face severe consequences for its weapons program. This as North Koreans gather in the capital to celebrate their latest missile launch. What are America's best options moving forward? And the newest addition to special counsel Robert Mueller's investigation into Russia, a former top lieutenant to a prominent Trump critic. Does this raise more concerns of bias? And can this probe be trusted? We'll be right back.